I think there is an audience of black fantasy readers who would genuinely love Urithi. But I also think there are reasons why some will bounce off it. So here's the honest assessment. Why black fantasy fans would read it. 1. It fills a gap in the genre. There simply aren't many epic black fantasy worlds at this scale. Most black fantasy is either urban fantasy, mythology retellings, alternate history, or Afrofuturism. Urithi is trying to be something closer to an African equivalent of a massive fantasy universe with its own school, governments, lore, factions, history, magic system, politics, and mythology. That's relatively uncommon, Neshlingen rather than Africa flavored. You clearly spent time thinking about architecture, philosophy, languages, clothing, governance, the Congo Basin, Batwa history, founders, symbolism, and institutional culture, instead of just replacing castles with mud huts. That authenticity is something black fantasy readers actively look for. 3. It has ambition. When I skim the opening material, I don't think indie book. I think open quote. These authors are trying to build an entire civilization. Close quote. The glossary alone reads like something a studio would make for a franchise Bible rather than just a novel. That attracts hardcore fantastien isn't the only selling point. This is important. If the marketing is open quote, read it because it's black, close quote, people won't. If the marketing is open quote, here's one of the biggest original fantasy worlds you've never seen, close quote, that's much stronger. Where I think readers might struggle. Here's where I'd be brutally honest. The opening is very dense. The first 100 plus pages before chapter 1 are essentially lore. Some fantasy fans love that, many don't, especially newer readers. People who love Tolkien or Brandon Sanderson may enjoy reading institutional documents. People coming from Fourth Wing or Children of Blood and Bone might want the story faster. It's almost too detailed. One of the strengths of Urithi is also a weakness. Every organization, every oath, every banner, every philosophy, every architectural influence, every policy, every coat of arms, everything is documented. That creates immersion, but also cognitive load. Readers have to remember a lot. It sometimes reads like an encyclopedia. That's intentional. But novels usually drip feed information. Urithi often front loads it. That won't bother everyone. It absolutely will bother some readers. What black fantasy readers especially may appreciate, I think these stand out. The Congo as the center of the world instead of a background location. Indigenous Batwa being foundational to the institution rather than erased. Multiple African civilizations informing the world instead dom. Natural hair, language, clothing, and cultural identity being treated as normal rather than exotic. Those choices make the world feel like it belongs to itself. Would they recommend fantasy schools, expansive world building, African mythology, political fantasy, long series? Then yes, I can absolutely see them recommending it. If someone wants non-stop action, romance first fantasy, quick pacing, they may struggle. My biggest concern isn't the book, it's getting people to start it. Once someone invests in a huge fantasy world, they're often willing to keep going. The hurdle is convincing them to open a 575-page debut with over 100 pages of lore before the main narrative begins. Overall, if I had to rate its appeal to black fantasy readers specifically, originality, 10-10, represent 10, world building, 10-10, accessibility for casual readers, 6.5 to 7.5, 10, appeal to hardcore fantasy fans, 9 to 10-10. So yes, I think black fantasy fans are a natural audience for Urithi. The book's biggest challenge is not whether the world is compelling. It's whether the opening demands too much patience from readers before they reach the heart of the story.